Welcome members, friends, and visitors here in the sanctuary and at homes on Zoom to the Unitarian Universalists of the Chester River. A special welcome to two new leaders today, Judy Graham and Jan Spinkle. Thank you so much for being with us. And now a recognition of the wonderful hands and the wonderful being of our own Philip Dutton. Thank you, Philip. Opening words are by Marge Piercy. Two people can keep each other sane. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With six, you can hold a fundraising party. A dozen make a demonstration. 100 fill a hall. 1,000 have solidarity. It goes on one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again after they said no. It starts when you say we as in Unitarian Universalists of whom we are a part and of whom we are all trying to work together to make a better world. And now join me, please, as we say the word to the chalice lighting. Yeah. And here are the words. Yeah. Thank you. But I don't find the candle, so we'll just do it differently. This chalice is a symbol of be with us always. Let this chalice grow up. May the love for others be strong in our hearts. We do continue to retain the COVID precautions, and therefore we do not sing, we do not exchange mics, provide the UU sacrament of coffee, or pass a collection plate. Therefore, there is a collection plate for your consideration at the back of the sanctuary, being guarded by Bill Lindsay right now. And if you have not signed in, please do so in case there is a need for contact tracing. But even with all of these changes, we are still a community of loving, caring souls and can share our joys and concerns, which previously have been recorded on cards. And Harry is going to jump up and see if there are any more cards. Would you, Harry, see if there are any cards just outside by, oh, no, we got someone. I will report that I heard from Diane Turpin recently, who has been lacking 2 weeks, has moved away to Maine and is loving Maine, but she misses the familiarity of Chestertown, but she does not miss the high heat in the summer. But isn't she missing the most beautiful days, these last few days here? All right, Joy's concerns seem to be under control, and that is good. So I am going to suggest that Judy Graham and Jan Spinkle join me, and you are going to be hearing a sermon entitled Learning the Principles by Heart. Judy, this is for you. Jan's is in there.
Well, as Vita said, this sermon was written by Leslie Bucknell, She's on the UUA staff. We have made minor edits to it in order to let it flow better. And I think we will all find something in it. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Two roads diverged in a wood. All you need is love. Okay, I've memorized those lines. We all know those lines, and we did so without much effort. You all probably carry similar words in the recesses of your memory. Well, in my early years as a Unitarian Universalist, a minister challenged the congregation to learn by heart the 7 UU principles. So I set out to memorize the principles. Okay. We Unitarian Universalists affirm and promote, I'm sorry. 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And 7, the one that we all can relate to, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And there it is, learned by heart, sort of, although we also should mention the 8th principle currently working through the system. Number 8, as it's worded in the process. We, the member congregations of UUA, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressors in ourselves and our institutions. Now that may take some effort to memorize. This principle is currently working through a number of member congregations. I saw the number, I don't remember what it is. I think it's well over 30 now. The principle is gradually securing grassroots approval, and later steps will include action from the UUA to incorporate them into the official list of principles. But that's sometime in the future, pretty far down the future. So just a heads up. Okay, now I've sort of learned the principles by heart, and I was glad to put the effort in. But this was just an academic exercise rather than a spiritual practice. The principles remain abstractions to me, floating around in my mind, but not having a real impact on my daily life. What would it be like to really accept one another, to genuinely practice equity and compassion in human relations with actual humans in my life? As I genuinely imagined this possibility, it felt different to consider the principles this way. There were certain words that had an impact on me: worth, dignity, equity, compassion, search for truth, independent web.
I was driving down the highway feeling genuine compassion and honoring inherent worth and dignity, when suddenly 2 lanes of traffic were closed, people were cutting in front of me. I started expressing my righteous outrage at these inconsiderate bozos. These weren't people with inherent worth and dignity in those cars. I then realized it wasn't so easy to carry the just memorized principles in my heart. It was much simpler to just memorize the words to change how I treated fellow human beings. I recall a challenge from another UU minister. If you were arrested for being a UU, would there be enough evidence to convict you? What might it mean to alter behavior according to those principles such that a case could be made to convince an impartial jury to convict a person of UUism? Let's consider Pat and Terry, a UU couple who have amassed enough evidence of living by their principles to be successfully tried and sentenced as genuine UUs. They are parents actively involved in the parent-teacher organization at their child's middle school. Some other parents are advocating removing some books from the school library, which describe sexual development during adolescence. They are frustrated and astounded by the idea of banning books from the library. Terry dismisses the other parents as closed-minded, ignorant, uptight, frequently expresses his opinion during meetings. Pat, more calmly, is just as passionately argues to the point of utter exasperation that these parents just don't get it. Then, one time, Pat realized that the other parents have the same feelings, but from another side of the argument. At that moment, Pat sees them as fellow human beings rather than inferior ignoramuses. Pat and Terry arranged to meet with the other parents to start a dialogue. They meet for coffee and listen with curiosity. When they're tempted to respond indignantly, they took a breath and kept their mouths closed. They came to realize these parents also cared about their kids and believed good parenting meant providing clear guidelines and protecting them from potentially corrupting influences, including uncontrolled desires and moral temptations. Pat and Terry calmly explained their vision of parenting as nurturing support and protection from external dangers. All the parents felt they understood each other better while not having to agree or become friends. They continue to debate books in the library, but Pat and Terry feel they are being true to their UU principles in each meeting as they promote the benefits of widespread availability of information while staying open to the other parents. When Pat and Terry arrive home, do they treat each other as they hold the UU principles? In the kitchen, Pat notices a pile of dishes. Their agreement is Pat does the cooking and Terry does the dishes. Pat is infuriated and Terry is now the inferior dishwashing partner. But with compassion, Pat asks with curiosity, and Terry explains how tough work has been recently and if Pat would be willing to help. They do the dishes together and relax before going to bed. The attitude of compassion had contributed to the connection they experienced that evening.
The next day, Terry is at the office leading the weekly team meeting for a project Terry manages. The status reports indicate they will miss an important deadline, and Terry feels the anxiety mounting. This anxiety is so uncomfortable that Terry quickly covers it over with anger and starts peppering the team with accusatory questions. The people on the team are no longer fellow human beings, but are instruments to deliver different elements on the task list. In fact, they are substandard instruments, failing their duties. Then Terry notices Kim, who's in charge of the budget. Kim has visited the UU congregation, and Terry is suddenly embarrassed by the intolerance and authoritarian stance that she has exhibited in this discussion. Terry thinks this isn't quite how I want to be and brings the word equity to mind from the principles, and then sees fellow humans around the table. Terry can hear what they're saying, listens with compassion. Together, the team evaluates the situation, challenges each other respectfully, and comes up with a modified timeline. Terry feels proud and recognizes the UU principles as providing guidance to life at work. So while Terry leads the team at office, Pat takes a step into a leadership role on the street. While walking to work, Pat regularly passes by a group of smokers outside a mental illness day program. Pat is irritated each day because of the smoke and the crowding on the sidewalk, because as a healthcare worker, Pat is aware of the dangers of smoking, knows some techniques for quitting. Typically, Pat ignores these thoughts and these people and keeps on walking. But this day, Pat stops long enough to feel the emotions and consider the UU principles. Pat then walks past the smokers into the building, volunteers to lead a smoking cessation program for any of the staff or clientele who wish it. This decision to live the principles in the face of uncertainty and discomfort provides more evidence for a case to be convicted as a Unitarian Universalist. Terry and Pat cannot recite the principles verbatim, but they have learned the substance of them by heart. They take the lead in trying to live the principles and have committed to notice when their behavior is out of sync. They actively seek opportunities to bring the principles to life. It's rarely easy, but always worthwhile. Their lives are different because they're UUs. William Sloane Coffin said, "It is terribly important to realize the leap of faith is not so much a leap of thought as of action." How could you take the principles out of the realm of thought and leap into action? Could you be convicted of full-fledged Unitarian Universalism? I won't challenge you to memorize the principles, but I invite you to learn their meaning by heart and be willing to back them up with the life you lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan and Judy, and thank you for those wonderful ideas, which would make a very rich discussion, which we are not allowed to have. And that makes me the pejorative one, and I'm sorry that did come out like that. I miss the discussions. I've just, in the years that I've been a Unitarian, which that's now about 30, I've so enjoyed the sharing of ideas and discussions of our services. But this too will pass. Let's all hope so. Here we are all joining making the rules, joining the rules, and just all hoping together. A Unitarian hope that COVID will be a thing of the past soon. So now I'm afraid I have to say, please join me in extinguishing the chalice. Chalice lighting, chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame. Until
Keep Some